we can maybe have more time to look at it more closely.
Yeah, I think next week might be better. We got a lot to go through.
Yeah, with the chief's letter available to glance at.
Great. Okay. But just flagging that for anyone in attendance that you are able to read that on our website. All right, moving on. And just to keep everyone informed, Liz Taylor, Elizabeth Perez, and I, so PCCEP staff, have been having meetings with all of the city council offices with the counselors directly for the most part. Providing, and every counselor has a little bit of a different relationship with our work. Some aren't familiar at all, others are quite familiar. But we're providing a baseline of information about what you all do and the origins of this group and kind of where it is in the city and what you're working on, membership and appointments, and then also PCCEP codification. So happy to answer any questions about that, but just wanted to keep everyone informed. And they've been going great. The conversations have been great and a lot of curiosity from the counselors, which is nice. All right, moving on. And then just again, keeping you informed, we are working on recruitment to fill our vacant seats. So we have done quite a lot of initial interviews, and then decisions are made during those second round interviews, as all of you experienced, and those are going to be happening in mid-October, we hope. And then we hope council confirmation will take place in November, working with their schedule. Any questions about that? Oh, and also, we will consider any more applications we get for anyone who's watching this or watches the recording. If you get that into us by October 10th, we will still try to consider you for this round. All good? Okay. Okay, so a little bit of schedule stuff and some questions that staff has for our members. So obviously we are meeting tonight and we have, I should have put September on here. We also have a full committee meeting next week on the 24th, but I believe that one is already planned. We'll have a full committee meeting in October. November, hopefully we'll be onboarding those new members. And then November, December, I hope that we will be able to elect our new PCCEP leadership with those new members and the board fully seated. So next slide. The main question I have for you all is how do you want to approach setting agendas for the meetings in this interim period where we don't have chairs? So I think the two options as I see them are that we could elect interim leadership at the full committee meeting next week. And then we would do the elections again once we have that fully seated board. Or we could have agenda setting meetings with all of you and do it a little bit more informally. So I just wanted to open that up for discussion. Any initial reactions or thoughts?
Could you just confirm or clarify how many current members we have? I think that'll help inform my consideration.
We currently have, oh gosh, we have 7 or 8. Definitely 7. But Carrie is finishing her term soon. So I think that might be 8 and might leave us with 7.
I thought it was 9.
Oh, go ahead, Jorge.
No, I thought it was not. Wait, I'm just gonna spitball names and then you tell me. Isn't it Leslie, Tia, me, Kip, Carrie, Viva, Conrad, Gabby, and then Odelia?
Yeah, so how many was that? I lost count.
That was 9.
Yeah, but Carrie and Odelia are both finishing their terms beginning in October.
Okay, so then that would drop to 7. Okay, yeah, you're right then.
Yeah. But for the moment, we technically have 9. Carrie, go ahead.
I was wondering if we had any lingering topics that have been on our lists. We talked about doing, I'm not sure where the community engagement PPB plan discussion sits. And I know there were some other topics that we talked about asking for specific people to come in and address. I think they're in a document on our shared file that Odelia started, or maybe you started. Maybe we could look at that to help set agendas.
Yeah, that's a great point, and there surely is plenty to work with there. Just a matter of deciding what the group wants to do and how you want to approach making that decision. Go ahead, Conrad.
Sorry, got to remember to unmute. I was just going to advocate that I like the idea of at least an interim, kind of transition phase. I think that'll set up our logistics well, leading into a fully seated body. So that would be my 2 cents.
Thank you. Tia? You're muted.
It looked like we had our October agenda at least halfway full, but I like number 2 where we all work together as a group since we're smaller to set the next agendas and keep rolling forward.
Great, thank you for that. Kip?
Yeah, 2 things thinking about. We had our steering committee meeting, which set a general agenda. So that's documented, and we currently still have T and I as co-chairs of the subcommittee, but are we thinking we would have a 7-member coalition to decide upon rather than look at it from a subcommittee? Because I don't know, it makes sense to do it from that way. Or out of the 7 of us that are going to be active, we would try to do interim co-chairs and glean a agenda going forward from the steering committee, and then have elections again sometime in November. Is that the thinking?
Yes, and this is, I should have specified, this is really just about full committee leadership. Yes. And the
Okay,
question of setting those full committee agendas.
okay.
And I agree with what's been said. From my perspective, yes, if someone were to fill that role, they should work with the steering committee report, stuff that was produced in the steering committee.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Viva.
Would I be correct in assuming, so the option 2 would be having to kind of set additional meetings then to come up with the agendas, right?
Yes, I think that's the only way we could probably do that. Yeah.
So be an additional meeting. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I probably would lean towards option 1 then, just to make sure. I think it's easier to organize smaller amount of people, make sure it happens. And then I do think for new members coming in, it would be less confusing because they'd see the structure working that would continue on, even if the people would change versus I think it's just a lot to kind of orient yourself to like how this system works. So I think that would have the most continuity kind of moving forward.
Thank you. Carrie?
I also like the option when we work collaboratively. And thinking about the things that we had on that list and the timing with the new members and more recruitment, I'd love to see if we could achieve the sort of intro to PCCEP 101 type of activity that we talked about, where we educate, we produce some sort of event that creates a lot of awareness and education. I don't know if the timing is possible, but since we have these few months that are open and we're we're looking for, priorities, maybe this is a good time to promote the basic concepts of PCEP, and forge more awareness.
Thank you. Jorge?
Yeah, I think it. I'm like now that I'm talking, I'm like rethinking my stance. No, I like Viva's point. It's kind of like for upcoming like members that they kind of see like a settled structure, so it's not kind of confusing. Um, I think with interim leadership, it's kind of like if we do it next week, they would serve until whenever new members get onboarded, I'm assuming.
Whenever we're able to have that proper election with the fully seated board, yeah. And I
Yeah.
should say any interim leadership would absolutely be eligible to
Yeah.
continue in that role. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think the only thing for me is just like when new members come in, they typically don't really like they'll kind of just fall in line with whoever else's folks are voting for because they don't know like the people, like the actual membership or the like people who are running for it. So then it kind of puts it like at a point where like there's no point in waiting for like elections, like redoing it, because at that like it's just gonna be the same people likely. Um, so I think that's like the only thing for me. Like I probably would just be okay with just like general um like leadership elections, no interim. That's my only thought, I would say.
Leslie?
Yes. So I if we had this vacancy earlier in the year, I think I would be more in favor of having interim leadership. But because we're so close to, new members coming on board and all of that, I'm wondering if it's even like really worth it for the general part, and then just really looking to fill like the community engagement subcommittee and continue those work. And then maybe our planned full committee meetings are more updates on what those like individual committees are doing, and going kind of off of Carrie's point of like educating the public a little bit about certain things that, just kind of like updates and things like that. And then we can have the general election once we do have the fuller board. I get Jorge's point, but because for the most part, when people put in their hat in the ring for those positions, they do tend to like have to have a mission statement and like talk about it. So, I mean, that's not a lot for the new members to go but it's something, and it's already a way to get them involved at the beginning. So that would be my vote.
One thing I will add to the conversation, we are, as I'm sure you're all aware, the new council structure, and I mean council in general, is extremely backed up. So we are going to do our best to get in November, and I think that it's a reasonable goal. But it's kind of like an expect the unexpected thing when it comes to council. So I hope not, but it may be a slightly longer period than my ideal timeline that I've laid out there. Kip?
Yeah, I'm kind of torn. I do think the election process is a lot, especially if it's only going to be for potentially 6 weeks or whatever, 8 weeks. Um, it, I'm curious what the rest of PCEP thinks of this is because we will have, well, we want to have new people coming on board until they're confirmed, and you just said that might not happen till November. So we do have our agenda from the steering committee. I think with the small group of people that we have, and most of them on the policy and reform subcommittee, if not all, maybe we can, as a group, decide what we want to work on and workshop things through, as opposed to doing new elections that are temporary and creating new structures. And for 7 people, it seems like a lot to me, maybe. So I'm curious what everybody thinks about group effort.
That
Can
was,
we,
oh,
Go
So
ahead.
that's a resounding yes. Okay, cool.
that's what I was thinking.
I also feel like interim elections wouldn't be helpful unless we have an extended period of time, which Dory just said might happen, but otherwise it would be a lot more hassle than a few meetings need, I think.
I would agree with that.
Jorge?
Perhaps, and this is also another idea that I'm putting out there. So me and Kip are kind of twinning on that part. Um, was instead of doing elections as soon as new membership, what if it's sort of extended at a certain point, like towards the end of the year? So elections happen at the beginning of the year. That way it gives kind of time for membership to the new members to kind of like settle all the, PCEP info and kind of getting to know folks. So that way they have like more of an idea. I think that would be um, my recommendation would just, yeah, like extend it to the end of the year and do elections at the beginning.
Yeah, honestly, I think that's a good point. You all could just say, okay, we're doing interim and then our elections will be in like February or whatever. Because I do think, yeah, we've heard that every year. It is hard when people are brand new. So yeah. Conrad?
I would second what Jorge said. I think that's the approach. Um, I respect everyone's opinions. It just makes me really uncomfortable to not. Right, it's poetic. Bear with me for a split second. It's poetic. We're talking about process, and we're having a whole conversation about not following a process. And so I think to lead from the front and to walk and chew gum at the same time, and every other business corporate anecdote I can throw in here right now, it's actually kind of imperative that we set a standard to decide amongst ourselves, internal leadership, and how we move forward. And that's so I think the happy medium would be to just set it for the rest of the year, just as Dory and Jorge were talking about, and actually allow some onboarding for these newer members coming onto the committee so they can feel really comfortable, and then they can make a fully informed decision. And we're not just kind of baiting them into an election and who talks the loudest or who uses certain words. And then that way we can actually go further stronger together. I'm done.
Yeah, and to add my 2 cents, I agree that if it were going to have elections for new long-term officials later, it would be better for the new members, and then making an election for interim leadership would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, if we're pushing elections out, I concur. I think maybe the structure makes more sense to me.
Okay, I think that's quite a few of you who have chimed in about that option. Could I do a quick straw poll for having, I guess, official elections in, we could set a date, but in, let's say, February, post onboarding, and electing interim leadership next meeting? Maybe raise your hand so I can keep track.
Okay.
I'm trying to, where's the hand? Oh, here we go.
Okay. All right, perfect. I think that'll do it. So that's what we'll move forward with. We can chat to kind of nail down that official date at the beginning of the year. But the plan will be next week, next full committee meeting, we will elect interim leadership. I say leadership because you all are considering changing that structure. So we will see where we end up with that. Sound like a plan? Great. Okay. Let's go back to the slides. Okay. Any member or members want to give a quick summary of what you all worked on in August?
In very, very general broad terms, we visited the concept of what PCEP, the purpose of PCEP is, and why members join PCEP, and what their role is on PCEP, and how PCEP can be most open and accessible and available for lots of different types of people and opinions.
Go ahead, Tia.
Just to add to that, we all agreed that we wanted constitutional policing and public safety for all of our community. And to add to that, strong community engagement.
Thanks, Tia. Kip?
Yeah, to build on that, we met with folks from PPB to talk about their community engagement strategy, to learn more about what their efforts and plans were. We also got a briefing and feedback on our recommendation, like we talked about in the beginning, on the exculpatory evidence. And again, we had the conversation about how do we restructure and be more mindful of how the committee operates as a whole and individually. And that's why we're having some bylaw change discussion this evening. So a lot of education, discussion, and reflection.
Great. That's a great lead in, I think, to next agenda item. Next slide. Probably next slide again. All right. So the committee is going to take a look at some proposed bylaws revisions. And I just put together a list here of some of the things that are being considered for revision. So I think what we'll do now is just get into looking at that document and discussing the proposed changes. So I will share my screen. And if I can find it. Sorry, everyone, give me a second. It's not popping up. There we go. Okay. All right, can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I will just scroll to the beginning and we can work through comments. And here we are at the beginning. Anyone want to get us started?
in reading through the entire document or just reading through the comments?
I don't think we need to do that. I think it makes sense to just kind of work through the comments and the sections we're considering as they appear, unless someone has another suggestion.
Yeah, no, that's right. Good.
So here, Kip has made some suggestions here about the mission and goals section. I did note, and if CAO is here tonight, I believe last time we revised these, we were advised to keep it consistent with the PCEP plan because it's a higher order document. But someone can fact check me on that.
Mhm.
Leslie?
Not fact checking, just agreeing. Because this was like one of the first documents I worked on when I joined PCEP. I will agree with you, and I don't think we need to change this language, but should we get codified, should we move forward with that effort, then I think it makes sense to change this.
Jorge?
Yeah, I was just gonna second to Leslie's point. Yeah, I agree. Like if it's codification, then much bigger conversation on that.
Kip, does that work for you since you suggested these
Yeah,
changes?
absolutely.
Okay. All right. And then actually I think that applies to Tia's comments as well, because that is still PCEP plan language. So I'm gonna resolve that too.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. We are here at city roll. Jorge has added to the meeting summary section, including summaries of any meetings with elected officials. Jorge?
Yeah, I can speak on this. So this is already in the bylaws. It's in section, scrolling down to find it. I believe it's in, where is it? Let me double check. It's from section 9. And I just moved it up to city role. It just seemed more like it fits in there more than where it is right now. Yeah, so in like subcommittees, point B, yeah, it says co-chairs. Wait, no, that's not it. Where did I find this? No, I did find it somewhere. Was it?
I didn't know we did
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, here it is. Summaries of any meetings with elected officials will be provided to the full body in a timely manner. Yeah, so I just moved it from subcommittees to the city role.
Where?
If you go down a little bit more, there it's like the first point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I just moved it from just a different section.
So the implication of moving it from this section would be that so as written there, it's saying that anytime PCEP leadership meets with city leadership, that they will provide a summary to your fellow members about what you discussed. Moving it under city role naturally changes that to say that staff will provide summaries of those meetings. Does that make sense? So is that the intended effect?
I mean, isn't it pretty much what it says? Because
I don't think so. So like typically, like for example, when the team meets on a quarterly basis, or when the co-chairs met on a quarterly basis, at the next full committee meeting, the co-chairs would provide a summary, but it wasn't written like anywhere, I guess maybe in their notes. But it was more of a verbal report than a written report. And I think this implies that it would be a written summary that would be posted to the website.
so a report that would be ran by like PCEP members, as in the co-chairs, not city staff.
No, well,
Right,
moving it,
well, yeah,
moving it, yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, the original intent of that is that if like the co-chairs meet with the city officials, then they report out and to the committee, typically in meetings. But this would imply that they have to write a report that would then get posted to the website, and that hasn't really been the practice. It's more just been the co-chairs reporting what transpired during the meeting during one of these full meetings.
Okay. So
Specifically, it implies that staff will write those summaries rather than the members. Yeah.
got it. Okay, then I will withdraw that one.
I mean, it's fine to propose that. That would be the change. I don't know if that's what was
Yeah, no,
intended.
for me it was just more like I was reading it over and then I saw like,
Gotcha.
this seems like it would fit more into that section than the current section that it's on. So it wasn't like yeah.
Okay. I think we'll keep it there then, is what it sounds like. Tia?
And that topic, sometimes I try to meet with city staff one-on-one to, for community engagement and to get to know them better. Is that something I would need to write a report on? Or just get,
As written, I interpret that to say that the chair, like anyone in a leadership role, is required to do that by these bylaws, which I think is actually a pretty good policy. So if you were meeting in your capacity as a co-chair, then yes.
okay.
Yeah,
I like to do that, so I can do that. Thank you.
great. Okay, moving on. So Tia added a comment here. PCEP will meet at least once a month. Should it specify the full committee? What about subcommittee meetings? I do believe, as written, this just means any meeting per month. Yeah. Any comments? Follow up? Leslie?
Do we feel as a group, I'm just posing the question, but do we feel as a group that that needs to be specified in any way? Or is it okay to leave it as is? I'm just posing the question.
I think for me it seems pretty general. If we make it like more specific, like if it's full committee or subcommittee, I feel like it's makes it a bit more like stricter in some way. Like that, like we have to meet. This way it's just kind of like a general way, like it could be either or. That's my view.
Yeah, I agree with that. Especially in the situation we're in now. It leaves some ambiguity as to what the agenda for a particular meeting might be.
I think that makes sense. Does everyone agree? Sounds like. Okay. Moving on.
I think we can probably resolve that comment.
Oh yeah, good point. I think this was just a clarifying question.
That was
which
just a question.
Yep, answer to that is yes.
Woo.
Okay. I'm not sure what the edit is here.
It went
Yeah.
from 2 years to 1, and
Yeah.
I just wanted to know more about why Jorge, as because you're the youth member, so that
Yeah.
you proposed it for a reason, so I
Yes.
wanted to learn more about it.
Yes. So, my suggestion or my amendment here is changing the 2 youth seats terms from 2 years to 1 year. And that's mainly, correct me if I'm wrong, Dora, but I believe considered youth is 16 to 21, is it?
23.
23. To be considered as like a youth for a seat. I would say for 16 to like the college age, so like 22-ish. Specifically more like in the 16 to 18 range. And just in general, youth are, I think 2 years is asking a a bit much, just with educational purposes. Like for me, I've always been passionate about this work, so I like make time and etc. Um, and so I'm like okay with a 2-year term with other youth who are like just kind of not as like invested, but they are invested in kind of way. Um, it's more normalized like for many programs that just youth have in general that like it's more like a year. But generally it's just more like I think 2 years is just a lot for someone. Um, and yeah, I think kind of to like Barbara's point, if it's possible to give them an option of a year or two, just more like they kind of have a choice to it, and it's not more like they have to do that 2-year terms, but it just kind of leaves that like if they are invested in it for like a couple months and then they kind of like drift away, which has happened before, then it just kind of causes like a whole stir for staff and quorum and voting issues.
Mm.
But yeah, that would just be my overall suggestion. I know that other like bodies do also like 1 year for youth seats specifically. So just a friendly amendment. Does that answer your question, Leslie?
Yeah, given that perspective, I mean, I'm okay with, like, I wouldn't say let's keep it as 2 years if like the only youth member is like, no, actually that's too much. I do think there's a big, like you pose something that's been a challenge, and that's retaining youth members specifically. And so I wonder if, not necessarily in the bylaws, but like separate to that, some like we can explore why that has been a challenge and like figure out ways to make it more consistent. I think we originally made this change from 1 years to 2 years because we felt that like 1 year was almost like a learning year, and then year two is where you really start being able to contribute and do the work. So we wanted to provide that space.
Yeah.
But I hear what you're saying, and yeah, so I think like concurrently we can figure out how we can better engage our youth membership if it
Yeah.
is going to be a shorter term.
And I think for 1 year, like, youth members can always seek a renewal of their term. Um, like that's a practice that everyone does, including ourselves. Um, I think it just more makes it easier in ease. Like, when someone's coming in and they're like, 2 years seems a lot. And if they finish that 1 year and then at the end they're like, okay, I like this, like I want to do it again, they can seek another year. And that's, just like a emo to Dory or Liz, like, hey, I want to renew my term, and easy as that. 2 year just makes them like they kind of have to stick. So yeah.
I'll just voice a couple things for people to consider. So as far as renewal goes, those members do have to be confirmed again by the council. So there is a risk, of course, that that would not happen. It hasn't happened in the past, but we are in a very different environment now, where we have had for the first time some of our proposed appointments at council not they have not gone through. So that's just something to consider. And then also I guess just more council stuff. Getting the appointment to do the reappointments at council. There is a backlog, or at least we're experiencing it currently. I think there are things maybe happening to help improve that process, but just a few things to consider. But I think all valid points that have been raised so far.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but do when members' terms expire, are they still considered members until their seat is renewed or by appointed by like someone else?
No, when the terms expire, it's a little bit of a dicey subject because let's say somebody's term was going to expire October 1st, but they had full intent to renew, but we couldn't get to council till November, or December, right? Which is happening a lot at council these days. I think everyone who is relevant to the conversation would still consider that person a member if it were due to council scheduling issues. So because that does happen. We
Okay,
try
so-
to we try to not let it happen, but it can happen.
So this would pretty much be the same scenario for if we changed it from 2 years to 1 year.
I think with the added variable that, of course, that person would have to be voted in again in a new environment.
And what's our minimum number for quorum, whether or not we're at 13 members?
7.
So, for example, when my term ends, if I linger on until more members join, then would I need to be reapproved, or would that be considered a acceptable extension?
I will have to get back to you on that. That's probably a question for city attorney's, mayor's office, etc., that maybe we should not get into at this moment.
Okay.
Yeah. Any more thoughts on this one? We can also move on for now and discuss it when we can come back to it.
Are
No.
we trying to make the changes as we go and like approve them?
Well, that's what we've been doing so far. We've been able to
Yeah.
resolve everything so far, but I can just add a comment about
I
Yeah.
guess how do other members feel about it?
Not to complicate it, but I wonder if more people after college graduation or after some sort of like initial job experience would be willing for 2 years. I mean, would it make sense 1 year for younger people, 16 to 21, and
What
then
if
2 years for older? It sounds complicated, but it might solve the issue that Jorge raised
I
and
I
still
think
get some serious older youth.
I think I would want to make a friendly amendment to this and change it to where it says they can choose a year or 2 year term. That way it's more easier and they have a choice on specifically what they would want to go for. Um, do members feel more comfortable with that? More of a choice of a year or 2 year term.
Yeah, if
Okay.
it's okay with staff, of course. That sounds good.
da, da, da.
Oh, you're gonna write it, Dory?
Oh
Okay.
yeah. I
Okay.
mean, either way, I think we could figure out how to.
Yeah, I was just gonna write it right now, so I can.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's a good amendment. Any other strong feelings about that? Can we move on for now? Okay. And oh, I'm gonna resolve this. Yes, there is a reappointment process. I'm gonna resolve that for now. But the process is essentially notification and then we go back to council. Okay, I think this is a big one.
and this is mine, so I can speak to this. But I believe me and Conrad have the same point here. Um, it's really, I think with just setting the number to like 50% plus one based on like the full membership kind of may like slow us down from completing work. Um, and it just kind of causes like quorum issues, like, for today or last week, that we had to move our meeting because of like potential quorum issues. Um, and I think like more because of like loss of membership and, busyness of other folks shouldn't in some way stop us from completing important work. Uh, and so like I, me and Connor, I guess, are proposing both like 50% plus one based on like current seated members. So we're at 9, correct? So I'm looking at like what 5 would technically be quorum if these like new if this was adopted. I don't know if Conrad has anything to say on that.
Really fast. I think it's just pretty standard. I mean, on any type of public body or board, and I think this just keeps us in better line. We need to calculate quorum based off of who's actually seated. So if folks, for whatever reason, are unable to fulfill their term, we're not hamstrung in getting the work done that urgently needs to get done.
Good comment from Barb in the chat that says, if you do this, you may want to consider setting a minimum number of members. What if there are only 3 members? Does that feel, would you all like to consider that input, Leslie?
Yes, I think that's been the challenge. When I first joined, I was very much in line of like, why shouldn't we just go with this, majority of the people that are here? As I've, as like the time has passed, it does lend itself to being more equitable in my view to really have not that simple majority and just have like the quorum that we currently have. It just, when you kind of take a look at it from a, equality perspective, exactly what Barb mentioned, like the people that are going to be able to join the meetings more are going to have disproportionate influence potentially on what the group decides. So I'm not in favor of this change. If we have, too few members, then that just is potentially a problem.
Go ahead, Kip.
Yeah, I'll second what Leslie said. We can still meet if we have too few members, but anything that we vote or we wouldn't be able to vote or ratify something if we're below our standard quorum. And I think that's a reasonable approach to things. We'd have to table.
Can you, so Kip, are you saying, I just want to make sure I understood what you were saying there with regards to the change.
Yeah, like we need to have, if we're supposed to be a committee of 13 and we need a base quorum to be able to vote and pass something, that we should have that minimum quorum to be able to do so, as opposed to what if we only have 3 people or there's only, the same 5 people show up out of 13 each time. So I think we should look at the full committee and what constitutes quorum, and that should be the standard. So that if we don't have a quorum to vote against, then we would have to table something until we did.
That, Kip, I think that's specifically this in some way, because we could really decide what quorum is or not. So like right now it's based on full membership, which is 7. The change that me and Conrad are trying to do is not based on the full membership, but just like the
Understand that,
current
and
membership.
I think that can lend itself to be problematic. Obviously not with this group, but in the future. So that's kind of my concern.
Yeah,
Conrad?
like what if the seated members are 4?
No, I mean, and those are really, really good points. And I really appreciate you all bringing up worst case scenarios, because that's fair. We need to talk about that. I would suggest that we actually table this discussion because I think we need to clarify the leadership structure in order to make a better informed decision on the quorum topic. Because if people have confidence in the leadership structure, I think that would change the dynamic of what a quorum should or shouldn't be. I think I would just encourage my fellow committee members. Again, I really appreciate you bringing up worst case scenario. I just don't want perfect to safeguard against good in getting work done. And so I think we're just kind of at a point where we have to decide, do you want to do things right a certain way, or do we want to reach an objective? And there's not one answer better than the other, but that's probably where our decision's stemming from. But I would, once we're done with the comments, I think we should sort out leadership and then come back to this.
Carrie?
Thanks. I agree that it can be addressed after new leadership is chosen, but I did want to disagree with the concept of worst case scenario being the model that we're trying to defend against. It's more to me about the fact that 13 people was what a lot of people, a lot of educated people who put a lot of thought into it decided would be a representative of diversity. And having fewer than 13 people risks, as other people have brought up, that lack of diversity. So I also, like the old school PCCEP members, it seems, am leaning towards keeping the quorum at half of the total amount of members, 13. So.
Viva.
Maybe it's related. My comment wasn't specific to the quorum. It was more about a language issue under the voting of the
Oh, my
modified
bad.
this, and so that's fine. If I'm just struggling wrapping my head around that. So if part of my lack of understanding is preventing me from seeing the connection, like that's fine to resolve it too. But I guess I wanted to kind of clarify it's not the quorum, it's the modified consensus and the language around that I just don't understand.
Sorry, that I misunderstood where that comment was attached.
Oh, okay.
So we can note that. Kip?
Yeah, I agree. We should probably table this and dive into it further. When I say worst case scenario is we consistently don't have the right level of representation to make sure we're doing equitable decision making. That's kind of what I was getting at. But even beyond that, I think the big challenge is that or not the big challenge, but one of the ways to get past the challenge of being stagnated or something, if it's something critical that needs to be voted upon, we can potentially come up with an emergency process for it. But I like the original 7+1 or 6+1 as quorum that meets the requirements or the original requirements. I think that, like Leslie said, it's the most equitable. So, but we should talk about it further because I think we're raising some pretty interesting challenges to getting work done.
Yeah, I will just say worth considering potentially a different kind of worst case scenario, just for sake of discussion and consideration when we talk about this probably next week, is say we were in another period like this, which this does happen, obviously, and PCCEP had 6 members. And then, we do have to wait a couple months for the appointments and everything. So I do think there are multiple kinds of worst case scenarios if we're using
Um,
that term. Were there any final comments before we table this?
I do have one final comment, just that I think that when we're making these bylaws, we're needing to make them independent of whatever leadership is in place so that they withstand any leadership that's in place. So that would just be my final comment as we consider this.
I agree with Leslie on that point.
Great. Okay, moving on to voting, and I did accidentally resolve Viva's comment here, which was wanting clarity about Jorge's edit, I believe. And
Yeah.
so
So right now, just a reminder, like our current voting structure is just simple majority, so like 7 to 6. Um, my change is, I won't really make it confusing, but it's pretty much like, let's say for the best way I can explain is probably like just voting wise, or just like this. So f pretty much changing it from just a simple majority to where it's to accept something. How do I explain this? Hmm, um hmm, Give me a sec. Wait, no, okay. Hmm. The reason why I'm choosing modified consensus is just because in another committee that I'm in, a lot of us weren't really supportive of a simple majority, just because like one person says yes to something and then everyone else just kind of just like fails on it. So this way it's more of like not like a super majority type thing, but more of like it's a tad extra of like a extra person. So instead of needing just like a simple one extra person, if it falls by, you need like you basically need like an extra person. You need two instead of one for like just a simple majority. And I came up with bringing this forward to PCEP just because of the conversations that we've had in the past about, um, you know, full consensus on a matter or the minority report. So this was just like another idea that I thought of, like, in addition to that minority report, what if we kind of changed how our kind of voting worked? Um, Pretty much, yes. So, um, let's say sorry,
Two.
Viva.
It currently says consensus -2.
Yeah,
Am I not grasping
Jorge,
something?
you're
wouldn't consensus -2 mean 11 votes? Or sorry, yeah, wouldn't it be? Because consensus
Would
means
mean
everybody.
Yes.
yes.
So if if so I had to like kind of look this up and wrap my head around this too. So I think what it means like right now, so of quorum, right? So like right now, if we have quorum, so of the like the simple
9.
majority of the 9, like 5 of us would have to agree. For the modified consensus, 7 of us would have to agree. And then in the case where we had 13 members, simple would be 7, but modified would be 11.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like how that math works. And so I guess what it does is that instead of us having to like be a simple majority, it kind of forces more consensus. And from what I understand from my research, it just makes it so that like people have to like really agree. And for our full committee of 13, if 3 people don't agree, then whatever we're voting on doesn't move forward. So it just kind of like forces more consensus.
But wouldn't that still be plus instead of minus? Am I really not getting something here?
Consensus means everybody.
Consensus just means
Yeah.
everyone. And so my suggestion is just instead of making it full, it's -2. So to Leslie's point, like based on how membership is, you just kind of subtract 2, and then that's the amount that you need to
Yeah.
approve something.
So if our full committee of 13 was seated, then 11 members would have to agree on whatever we're voting on instead of right now, 7
Just
members having to
simple.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, to that point, thank you, Leslie, for very explaining that. I just kind of woke up like not that long ago, so that's why I'm a bit tired. But again, to why I brought it forward was mainly just because I've seen that it really is like conversation oriented to really talk to members and try to find like full consensus on a matter, but also just be focuses on that tad point of like just simple majority, and more of like actually building consensus to where folks like will agree on a on a matter, and it's more just based on conversations that we had regarding just the minority, is why I brought it forward, but it's not like a very serious thing. It was just a simple suggestion that I wanted folks to consider.
No, I'm getting that was my error. I was really hung up on the word consensus and conflating that with majority. So that makes sense now.
Apologies.
No, that's not you. That's my brain. So, my then follow-up question is how would that, and because I was stuck there, I probably wasn't able to process some of the things you might have already said, so might be repeat, but how would this impact when we have a smaller group then? If we're putting the quantity of the -2, if we have a smaller number, say like 4, oh no, okay.
We would always have to have quorum.
I'm processing myself through this. Okay, thank you guys.
I do think
You're
though,
okay.
Viva, that it is relevant. Like, if the quorum is changed, this will be very relevant, hand in hand with that, because I need to work through it a little more. But like, if PCCEP keeps the quorum rules as is and adopts this change, that could create some issues, I think.
Yes.
But I need to think through it. So yeah, maybe that needs to be considered in tandem with any potential quorum changes.
I think if the quorum is kept as is and this is adopted, we don't have issues. But if the quorum changes and this is adopted, then we have issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're going to complicate things if we change this part as well. We did talk about offering a dissension process to things that are approved by the majority of the committee, and I think that kind of addresses some of the discussion and resolution challenges that I think this is intending to address, which I do appreciate, but I kind of like keeping as is, keeping it as simple as possible, and having better exposition on why we agreed to do things and why some people are not happy with it. And I think that's a more egalitarian democratic process anyway.
Okay, this might be another one we have to table. More comments here? All right, moving on. Okay. Facilitation, this came up in those internal meetings in August. However, it may be, as far as bylaws are concerned, as written may be sufficient. That's just my comment. No one else commented on it. Any thoughts here? It's probably sufficient. Okay. Should I resolve this, folks?
I have nothing. It seems
Sure.
good to me.
There's something wrong with the wording of the last sentence on facilitation.
Facilitator will not act as an advocate on any issue, any interest group, or any member of PISA.
Would we just add on behalf of any issue? I think that resolves it.
think
Something
you're
like
right.
that.
All right, cool. I'm going to resolve. Alrighty, decision making and public comment. This is another one that I think though that this probably is more related to the voting piece we were just discussing. I mean, yeah, this is just completely self-referential here. So yeah, quorum and voting covered that. Gonna resolve this.
Yeah, but I think
Okay.
we don't specify there that like members can dissent or can write a statement of dissent if they
Okay.
like don't agree.
That might be a good place to add the. Good point. And I think there was pretty much consensus at the internal meetings about adding a dissent report of some kind. So we can work on that language for when we consider this next time. Okay, we will check on this link, Viva. We can check on this potential link as well. Okay. Removal for non-attendance. Tia says full committee meetings required along with subcommittee. Other subcommittees are optional. That is all correct. Let's see. Yeah, we could potentially clarify
I think
subcommittees.
we
ahead.
already have that where it says, because I think I remember running through this if you go a little bit higher, where it says missing any meeting they are required to attend.
Okay.
And then we do say something about how, you know, if you're a member of a subcommittee, you have to attend those meetings.
Mm-hmm. I think that's right. We could say write this better when I do it. Okay. Viva says, do we need to quantify how much notice? Thoughts on this?
I would defer to you on that, Dory, almost because like what is reasonable so that it doesn't impede with committee work?
Yeah, that's a good point. I will think about that. Okay. I think we resolved this with the comment above. With the any meetings they were required to attend piece. Okay. Any member who misses a third or more of scheduled meetings in how about of meetings they are required to attend? In a 12-month period, regardless of prior notice, will be removed. Do we feel that is sufficient to address attendance?
Mm-hmm.
That's good with me.
Viva, does that address your last comment?
You mean the one that we
Yeah.
just discussed, or the one that's attached to?
The one that's attached to this, the one that says some action I like outline. Oh no, you were in the right place, Dory.
Okay.
Would like to see some steps to outline action being taken in response to missed meetings prior to removals.
Oh, not really. But that's okay. That's just my personal opinion. That I mean, if the group idea and consensus is it's simply like you miss meetings, you're done, and that's on you, then, and I don't mean that in like a critical way, like that's totally fine and appropriate. Then I think it's fine as is. I think another way to kind of look at it, if someone is missing meetings, it'd be nice to have a process of kind of like what is our response then to someone missing meetings, other than simply removal. That would just be my thought. So action in terms of what do we do when we notice someone isn't showing up?
Anyone have thoughts or suggestions?
Not showing up might be an issue to do with diversity. People don't show up when they're uncomfortable.
I think it could be a lot of things, and I think absolutely that could be one of them.
Kip?
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, I would crib from the best kind of HR policies, right? Is if somebody's not showing up, not participating, somebody, either you, Dor, or somebody that is on your team would probably need to reach out and have a conversation and figure out what's going on. And if there is a problem, then be able to facilitate a fix. So I think that would be step number one before we do any kind of automatic action. But by the same token, I think if somebody joins PCCEP and understands that multiple absences would be problematic, that we hope that they would act in good faith and at least contact you or somebody on your team. So I think, but following again, kind of like a, hey, let's figure out what's going on before we just kick off some automatic action makes sense. Yeah. And we've done that, Barb, also. Folks had to take extended time off, so.
Yes, I think so. I just will add, or I guess I will inject the question from a bylaws standpoint, what the goal is in including that. We do, and I guess I'll add, staff does do those things. Absolutely. Anytime someone is having a, even, I mean, not even a large number of absences, but if we're not hearing from someone regularly, we do
Right.
Do those things. Bylaws, I think, are things that members can lean on to enforce rules, obviously. So there may be benefit to specifying how you would like that handled. It is addressed a little bit in this sentence here, and maybe that's something you want to expound upon.
I think for me, like modifying what you just highlighted into more of a process
Mhm.
instead of kind of saying, to me, the way it reads right now is like, yeah, they can talk to staff if they want to, and I don't think that's the intent. So I'm just, yeah, I think it has a different read than.
Yeah,
I don't think it really captures what actually happens necessarily, or what's done to problem solve or things like that. And not that we need to go that specific, but I think it's just a rewording potentially.
Yeah, just to build on that, I put in the chat. I agree. I think referring to a process of what staff does and what the expectations are would be really helpful just to make it clear. But I don't think we need to document it in depth in this document.
Sure. I think I can't really come up with anything on the spot because really the process is that we reach out to them and try to have a conversation. And I mean, if I don't reach them the first time, I keep trying them. So that's the process. I'm not sure. Maybe there's something I'm missing that would be helpful. So if anyone has more specific ideas, otherwise we can include a sentence about staff contacting.
I mean, you can break it down to, is it a health issue? Is it a challenge working with the group? Is there a reconciliation process? If that can't be met, what's the parting ways? I mean, you can break it down into a great deal of detail. I don't know, maybe it needs to be in the bylaws, I'm not sure. But I do think making sure there is a clear opportunity to say there's legitimate reasons why somebody is not being involved, or if they're just ghosting, there's a process for that too.
Yeah, I think it'd just be as simple as, like, yeah, just saying that like staff would make efforts to outreach and problem solve. And if members, I mean, this is not the right words, but like if members do not, do anything with that, or, come up with modifications or accommodations, then those 3 missed, or whatever the number was, would result in a removal. I think it just shows more of that there's something in place, and it's not like an option that members have, that if they want to, they can discuss circumstances.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think there is kind of a live question here, which is how this body wants to deal with non-attendance for any reason, even if there are completely legitimate extenuating circumstances. It's sort of like a decision between like there might be more to expound upon here as far as reconciliation process and accommodations, or this group might decide if you're missing a third of meetings in a year, that's not a member who can sustain this work with us. And both are legitimate choices, I think. So maybe we need a little more clarity around this discussion and those decisions. Tia?
This is relatable, but not exactly. In the past, we've had both staff and members who were attending, but they just never came back. I didn't realize that they left the committee or left this staffing. And so I'm not sure if that's just a communication piece that's private and we just don't hear that they left the program.
That's usually because sometimes we just get ghosted. And I think to your point, we could be more deliberate about making those announcements. Sometimes it's hard because when somebody ghosts you, you don't really know until like a while later. And then it's like, oh yeah, we all know they're gone. But there is this piece in the bylaws that says members are expected to provide notice to the project manager in writing or verbally if they are leaving the group. But I think, Tia, you're right that we could do a better job of messaging out when that does happen. Leslie?
Yeah, so this was something we added to the bylaws kind of when we last revised them, and that was to address the quorum issue. So I wanted to provide a little history for the group on that, because if members aren't showing up, then we can't meet quorum. So that was why we put this in, to address that. However, now that I've been with PCCEP a little bit longer, I do think that this is, not understanding of extenuating circumstances potentially. And so I agree with the change of potentially including something about like, staff will make an effort to resolve attendance issues. And then maybe something along the lines of, if attendance issues cannot, or like challenges, or, cannot be reconciled, member may be removed or something like that. Just because I do think that attendance is necessary to make quorum. But I see, yeah, I think that would be an appropriate change.
Go ahead, Kip.
Yeah, I didn't add this into the bylaws because I wasn't sure it should have been there, but I drafted some ideas about not only attendance, but also participation expectations, like reviewing emails, chat, commenting on documents, or at least acknowledging that they were reviewed. So I think that's another factor that can possibly mitigate some of the absences. If somebody can't make it for a particular meeting or two in a row, but they are participating and being active in the group. Again, there's different factors to work on here, but I really like the idea of factoring in the expectations, either in orientation or possibly in bylaws, of what the expectations are for participating and contributing to the work that everybody else is participating and contributing to.
Quick time check. It's 7:30. We have
Mhm.
about 15 minutes left for this conversation. We were gonna, it was ambitious, but we were gonna look at another document tonight. We will not get to that. I do think we should try to get through the rest of this, so you're in a good position for next week. Okay, I think let's move on to officers. This is obviously another big one. I may be missing it, but yeah, I'm not sure if it made it into the document. Go ahead, Conrad.
Oh, after feedback from other committee members, I'd just rescinded my proposal to adjust the co-chair system. So it seems like there's pretty strong, pun not intended, consensus that people felt that the co-chair system is what they felt most comfortable utilizing. And at the end of the day, we need people to feel safe, comfortable, to be good representatives. So I think the co-chair system, but just specifying as we get down into it, specifying the expectations is the key element in this.
Great. Okay. Leslie.
On that, I do think that you brought up some valid concerns around the challenges of having two co-chairs with with essentially the same, kind of puts you at a stalemate if you don't agree and stuff like that. So I would think that if we do keep the two co-chairs, we should still address that in some way and have some sort of deliberation process, delegation process, some sort of tiebreaker aspect to things so that we still have the two co-chairs, but the work can move forward and we don't run into that issue that you presented.
It's Leslie. Okay, shall we? Oh, let's look at this one first. No member may serve in the same officer position for more than 2 years consecutively. Checking in on this one, Tia says, does this have to stay 2 years? Pros and cons. Jorge?
I like how it currently states. I don't think a person should be in that much should be in a leadership position for that long. It gives opportunity for other folks to serve. And I mean, yeah, just pretty much I could definitely see if there was nobody else interested and that's the only person, um, that probably will be chair, but I think that's something the whole group can decide, if that ever comes to it. But yeah, I think a person serving no more than 2 years should be okay. Um,
What
I don't
about
I don't
no?
know if I would want to add that. I would probably just want to leave it up to the group to decide if and let the group if that happens to us, that could be a conversation we can have whether to let that person continue serving or if we just yeah. I don't know
No,
if I
we
want
would
to.
have to change it if you wanted that option. We actually encountered this exact issue with Tia this year.
That's why I brought it up.
Mm.
So we would have
Okay.
to add some sort of clause if you did want to have that as an open option.
I would want to ask what other committee members feel on that, Klaus.
I think there's unusual circumstances that it benefits having the unless no other members, but I think what happens is when people repeatedly kind of step up or are the kind of the folks that are putting in the most work, it's sometimes easy to just kind of go with that. Whereas if you have a rule where someone can only do 2 years, it kind of puts the ownership back on the rest of the group to kind of be like, all right, well then someone might challenge themselves, or it's harder to kind of throw your name in the hat if you know someone. And I'm not speaking about UTS
No,
specifically.
I agree.
It's true to
I,
you, and so.
no, it's
But if
new
someone
leaders.
if someone is really passionate about something, or and no one's raising their hands, it might be simply, there could be a lot of reasons no one's raising their hands. So I don't know, putting the ownership back on the group to problem solve.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah, that's why I'm more like, I don't know about like unless anyone is serving, but kind of to like the point of like worst case scenario, that's like the only thing that would come up in my mind where I would be more like maybe 2 years. But yeah. So I think it's a discussion point we can come back to.
Okay. All right. Duties. Okay. Anyone want to, I don't know who worked on this the
This is
most.
mine. The first thing, I feel like is pretty simple. At the first paragraph, I just gonna put for clarification purposes so that it's clear, that a presiding officer will be designated at all times, and I just added like either before or at the beginning of the meeting, so we just kind of know. That's pretty up and simple. Um, the big part is the full committee or PCEP co-chairs. So I added based on other committees like um responsibilities pretty much, and just kind of like copy and pasted it. Um there were some that I didn't put on just based on like how I've seen we've kind of operated and structured, and but they're pretty like what you would expect of a like co-chair pretty much. Like presiding over the meetings, um sets limited public testimony based on like busyness, work with Dory or Frida or whoever it is later in life, to develop agendas, speaks to really things. Yeah, it's kind of forward, but yeah, open to suggestions. And then I also added subcommittee chairs, just so it's also like more clear, like for Tia and Kip, what it kind of means for them. Yeah, so open to conversations or what folks think. Yeah, and it is pretty long, so my apologies on that.
Thoughts on this? Conrad?
Yeah, I think I think the only thing I had just very minor. Oh, good question from Barb in the chat. Is the things removed, Jorge? This is all new, right? That the problem
This
is
is all new. Yeah,
yeah,
there's nothing before on like what exactly responsibilities are.
right.
I think the only thing was really just setting agendas and serving as a liaison between the city and PCEP. That was pretty much all. So I wanted to be more specific. So
Yeah.
everything there, Barb, is new.
Yeah, good question. Just trying to define it. I think the only thing I wasn't sure of is the explicit function as an ex officio member to all subcommittees. I didn't know if we needed to outline it, especially if we want to empower subcommittees to do the work. yes, in the ideal world, one full committee co-chair would assist with one of the subcommittees and one of the other ones would. I just don't know if we necessarily want to officially require that. That was
Yeah,
my
I
only
will
little thing.
say that was one I was middle on. But it's something that I saw and I was like, I'll put it in there, see what folks feel about it. But I was also in the like, I don't know about that point. So I agree
Yeah.
with you.
Leslie?
Yeah, I had a question about that one as well. But I think this is where that report out to like, what was that section? Summaries of any meetings with elected officials should go if it goes anywhere instead
Yeah.
of and I think like I just wanted to mention that we had deleted that from the top, so it should probably be placed in here.
Mhm.
But that was, yeah, that was it.
Sorry, Leslie, I missed that. What do you say? Or do I need to add a comment?
Oh, yeah, the
was
summaries
reading
of any
something.
meetings. No, you're good. The summaries of any meetings with elected officials will be provided to the full body in a timely manner. That was part of the duties that,
Okay.
yeah, that was like deleted. That was moved to the top, but deleted currently. So I want to make sure that,
Yeah.
because it seems like it would go here.
I will add that part.
Um, but yeah, that was pretty much it. Other than that,
Wait.
I'm wondering if it gets too granular, but I have no real edits to this. So
Yep.
Yeah, I think the only part that I think I get the intent of, but I'm concerned about the implementation is number 5. I think if we have a lot of debate, you absolutely do want to have a ranked stack ability for people to speak and not just keep going back and forth. But I'm not sure I've seen that, and I could be absolutely wrong. Maybe my perception is different from others of that being a huge challenge. That I think our agreements give us space to make room and space for everybody else. So if we want to be very explicit about who gets to speak in what rank and in what order, that would be more work for a facilitator to be able to manage. And I think that could impact some other aspects of things. That's the only thought I had on number 5. And Afrida does that well. Yes, she'll be like, hey, you've talked a lot, Kip. Please give somebody else space. I don't
Yeah.
think she said that too often, but
That's my only concern about this list. I think overall it's a really great addition, very helpful. But I do feel like there are a couple of things in here that are perhaps more under the facilitator umbrella, and which I do think it was expressed in those August meetings that there was a desire to put that more in the hands of a facilitator versus a member. So just wanted to raise that. So like that would be 2, 4, and 5 for the most part.
And I think the other point, like, I would want more clarity on is more like the role of both the facilitator and co-chair, because I know I brought this up, like we're sort of like it's sort of confusing on my end on what both roles are doing. Because
I agree.
typically it's like, the co-chair is the facilitator, but you also bring an outside facilitator. So then it's like, what is the point of having the co-chair if the facilitator is that person? Um, and that's why I added language on like role, like the responsibilities to kind of clarify it. S-
Mm.
But Dora, you said 2, 4, and 5.
Yes. Particularly 4 and 5. Conrad?
Sorry, couldn't unmute. I think are out in order to give like the maximum amount of flexibility to future committees, and what those particular co-chairs decide is have something in there that the the co-chairs will, make public to the body, what they're, delegating or what they're assigning to the facilitator and their role. So that way each different group of co-chairs can have that flexibility, because as we know, some will throttle and want to run the meeting themselves, and some will throttle down and would rather have the facilitator. So that way we can, at least in terms of the bylaws, call it out that it's publicized, so everyone's on the same page of what that specifically looks like. That's just
So
brainstorm.
you're saying you would like that to be, I heard both flexibility and more clarity or
Oh
more
yeah,
delineation?
no, yeah, sorry. So to your point with like 2, 4, and 5, they could essentially be one line item along the lines of uh the limits for public testimony, how to handle the order of conversation and the flow of the meeting, will be determined and shared with the full committee, right? But it's under the co-chair, so they're deciding that. And then each batch of co-chairs can make those adjustments as appropriate.
Wait, so you're saying like keep it under co-chairs and have them decide whether to give it to the facilitator or not?
Right. Yeah. Would that work for you, Jorge, for your intent? Right. I think the call is that the co-chairs get to decide, but then we're calling out that it's also public knowledge, so everyone knows
Yeah.
what the operational flow should be.
Yeah, I think that clears it. Yeah, I could see that as an alternative. I know Leslie has something. I'm kind of curious to Leslie what has to say.
Similar thought. I mean, I feel like it could all be nested under currently 6, where it says like work with facilitator to, and then including that last bit, all get kind of nested under that, like to determine, and then you kind of have 6, I or whatever. So like so 2, 4, 5 get nested under 6. And with the understanding that it's like with the facilitator and like publicize it to the committee.
Yeah.
Tia?
I was getting confused because we hire facilitators to facilitate, but as I was thinking, we actually really use them and utilize them for our town hall meetings.
I would say that's kind of why I'm raising it, because currently, yes, that is by far where facilitators are utilized the most, or a committee meeting with a large number of public attendees. But the way it basically works now is I lead like the document discussions, and PCEP members lead the agenda essentially, or the presiding PCEP members lead the agenda. And so in those August meetings, it was raised the possibility of putting more control in the hands of the actual facilitator. So
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like I think more in a more public presence space with a lot of public presence, or like town halls or any sorts of events that we have that really has a lot of public, I would, yeah, in some way like want to give it more to a trained professional facilitator. Because they'll probably be able to, they'll handle the spaces more, which Frida has done. I think for just like typical meetings, um, like it should depend more on the officers than the facilitator, but also in general just have assistance with them. So agree to your point, Dory.
okay, so maybe the nesting we can kind of explore options with how to reflect that flexibility. That seems to be kind of the consensus, the desire for flexibility to determine that. Okay, and then they said it seems reasonable. Same responsibilities, serve as liaison. Anything on this one?
Yeah, this I would probably want to give it more to Tia and Kip if there's because you guys are the current or Carrie as interim, I know. For subcommittee, if there's anything on there for y'all.
Yes, I feel comfortable with that. I would like as a co-chair to be part of the steering committee. And then as a co-chair in the steering committee to then go to the committee to bring the information forward. So it reads a little differently for me than I would write it. I'm trying to think.
You would be still a steering committee member as that's currently states all the way at the top, I believe. I'm trying to remember where exactly it states. But yeah, this pretty much states like the same thing. You're reporting, serving as that
Yeah.
like point communication person.
Yes.
Yeah,
I like
which
that.
I think I think that's kind of the standard operating practice in the one steering committee meeting that we've had or otherwise. I did, earlier this year, I did propose more of a structured work product process and workflow process that I don't think we've fully revisited, but I think it's a good idea to, once we get this figured out, go look at our processes that we're going to agree upon. Because I do think it'd be better to, not better, I think it would help to have more consistent reporting out to subcommittees, asking for input based on what has transpired, and I think creating more work products without being onerous about it makes sense for chairs and co-chairs or co-chairs and co-chairs. I don't know. Anyway.
Okay, we are at 7:50, so I want to move to open public comment because it's been a while and I want to make sure we have time for folks who have joined. But it looks like the sections we have left are subcommittees, respect the group, conflict resolution, communications, meetings and records, and amendment. But there are not tons of comments on most of those sections. So we'll just keep that in mind for next time. I'm really glad we scheduled 2 meetings on this. We were a little on the fence about it, so I'm glad that we did. Okay. All right. Thank you everyone for your good work on that. And if we could get the slide, please. And Frida, you can jump in for this portion.
All right, at this time, we'll go ahead and move to open public comment. Remembering about the open public comment, this is an opportunity to share questions or comments that you have on what was discussed today at PCCEP's meeting or in any other work that PCCEP is doing. And go ahead and call by hand. We see Charlie, go ahead.
Hi, tonight I will be speaking on behalf of CopWatch. I might have one little comment of my own, just to give you an update on the CBPA and where we're at right now. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm just going to read from what we put out there. So 19 years ago today, on September 17, 2006, 2 Portland police officers and 1 Multnomah County Sheriff deputy beat James Chassie to death. Less than a year later, PPP hired MCSO deputy Brett Burton, and he is the only one of the 3 officers still with the Bureau. Kyle Nice and Christopher Humphreys, no longer appears to work in law enforcement in Oregon. And I guess I have a question. Are they still in law enforcement anywhere? But anyway, you can watch a preview of Alien Boy, The Life and Death of James Chassie. I put the links in the chat for either just the full documentary or the preview. The full documentary is on YouTube and it's free. The most recent person killed by Portland Police Bureau was Damon Lamar Johnson, 52-year-old Black man and a U.S. Navy veteran known to have mental illness. Mr. Johnson was not suspected of having committed any crime and was killed by 3 Portland Police Bureau officers in his home on June 27th, 2025. We join the Mental Health Alliance's demand that the city of Portland immediately hire an experienced independent investigator to make an unlimited and public review of the death of Damon Lamar Johnson. And there is a Mental Health Alliance statement here, but I don't know how to move it from my phone onto my laptop at this moment. If there's time, I can type it in. The Portland Committee on Community Engaged Policing, that was just some additional information about when your meetings are. But the update on, yeah, it's still very upsetting when I talk about Damon Lamar. Okay, so right now, CBPA, we have started training. We have to complete all the training by December 18th. Right now, we're just in the orientation portion. There's a whole list of training. There's some that have been recommended by CBPA members, including myself, requesting ride-alongs with Portland Street Response, chat, and what's the other one? Rapid Response. Let me think what else. Oh, background checks are still pending. We're supposed to know the outcome of those within about a week. But Sarah, what's her last name? I can't think of her last name. Dory, do you remember? She is leaving for a job with the county.
Oh, Sarah Morrissey.
Yeah, she's supposed to be reviewing those, but she's leaving, so I'm really uncertain about what's going to happen there, how much longer it might take now to get those background checks done, to determine if we all get to stay or if any of us have to leave or whatever. So that's kind of where we're at right now. And that's pretty much all I have. But thanks for everything you're doing. It's interesting.
Thank you, Charlie. Is there any other comments at this time? Go ahead, Kat.
Oh, hey everyone. I'm watching you all do the bylaws and stuff, and I've written bylaws and I've edited bylaws, and it's arduous, so I don't envy any of the work you're doing. I do want to remind you though, because this is what always happens with bylaws, is bylaws are supposed to be a very broad framework for the organizational structure, whereas the policies are where the minutia lies. And what often happens is how to do a job ends up going into the bylaws where they shouldn't. That should be in the policies for the subcommittees, and possibly even a little guideline of when you have town halls, what do you tend to have? Maybe you hire somebody, maybe you don't. You have your meeting guidelines where it's like one mic, one diva, whatever you want to call. But the bylaws should just be a very large, broad framework and foundational for PCEP, and not necessarily getting down to like, how do we conduct a meeting, you know? So I just wanted to remind you all, because you're gonna get, you can get lost and confused in the sauce of it all.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Kat.
Kat.
Thank you, Kat.
Yeah. Others.
PCEP members, you can always share any additional thoughts you have at this time as well. Just a reminder.
Yes, go ahead, Jorge.
Yeah. Thanks, Kat, for that. I was just gonna note, I likely won't be able to attend next week's meeting. And so I want to ask, which is totally okay, if it's possible to change the date, which I know nobody likes, but just thought I'd ask.
It is extra not possible this month because I am going out of town for about 2 weeks right after that meeting. If we could try to accommodate you in more specific ways, Jorge, and maybe discuss that offline, or if there's anything you want to raise to folks. But yeah, I don't think staff is able to reschedule that meeting.
Go ahead,
I just wanted to update oh, I'm sorry, Conrad, I didn't see your hand up there.
Go ahead, Carrie.
Regarding the contact survey, the meeting, the launch kickoff meeting was delayed due to backlog in the systems of getting things approved on time. And then I did notice in the email that was sent out to all PCEP members recently inviting us to join a training in late September. One of the breakouts was community survey group. So I intend to attend that training and then join that breakout.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Conrad.
Thanks for attending, Carrie. I don't think I will be able to, so appreciate that. I just want to give everyone a quick shout out on a happy note. It was really kind of heartwarming to see how we can disagree, but on certain things, and we're in the minutia sometimes, but we can disagree, but everybody made really good points. We had healthy discussion, and I look forward to having more of that next week. And I think if tonight's any indication, we're really setting a really good tone. So I just wanted to give accolades to everybody. It's like, that's how a professional meeting with everyone who's in it for the right reasons is supposed to run. So good job.
Thanks, Conrad. I totally agree. All right. Unless there are any other final comments, we can get everyone out of here on time. Yes, Kip, it's super dark out.
Yeah.
All
I'm
right,
so not okay with this. Who do we talk
I know,
to
it just
at
happened
the
all of a
city?
sudden. Alrighty, so our full committee meeting is scheduled for next week. So if there's any discussion of rescheduling it within the week, I am open to accommodating that because we are in such extenuating circumstances. But I think our only option would probably be Monday. So if you all want to discuss that on email, I don't really like doing that, but I know we need all of our members right now. Or Jorge, I don't know if you're able to attend part of the meeting, if you could be more flexible. Anyways, just saying
I likely can.
we can
but
keep that door cracked open, but it's unlikely. So yeah. We have full committee meeting next week, and the October schedule is TBD. Okay, so I think we can resolve any other questions on email, and then PCEP members, please keep working on these documents if anything has come up for you in this revision process. All right, with that, it is 8:01 and we can adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everyone. If I could stay on for a minute if any members want to touch base, or Jorge, if you want to touch base about
Yeah,
your schedule.
I could stay on.
Well,
Okay.
thank
Recording
you,
stopped.
everybody.
Good night,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Night, everyone.
Good night.